name is Michael Mobbs. Secondly, but firstly in a real way, Councillor Sylvie Ellsmore. Thank you for coming, Sylvie.
Thanks, Michael.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of Australian country. Their connections to land, sea and community. We respect their elders, past and present, and extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait people. Thank you. In the next 55 minutes, there'll be two topics covered. One is about Victoria Park, the other is about Peace Park. It's being recorded, so the only person who's allowed to swear is me. But seriously, it's going to be online until Thursday, so if you have friends who couldn't be in the room tonight or online, please let them know. And thank you if you are online, and thank you for the people in the room. It's great to see you here. It's one of the few public meetings we've been able to have in these troubled times, and it's great that you've come out. The nice thing about being in a bar is that we don't have to wear a mask. So there we go. Thank you to Knox Street Bar. They're providing tonight's venue free of charge. Now, our first topic is the proposal to put in on-demand traffic lights across City Road at the top of Myrtle Street. May I introduce a long-time resident, Julie Macken, who's going to give you a brief outline, no longer than 2 or 3 minutes before the hammer comes down. And Julie, much respect for pursuing this for a long time. So please take it away.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for everyone who came and is watching. I guess someone asked if I had a plan about this, and I don't have a plan because it seems a pretty simple proposition. But I thought I'd start by just telling the story of traffic lights that have never appeared on City Road. I've been living in this area for 40 years, but about 25 years ago, inspired by the fact that I was trying to get into Victoria Park, which is the only substantial green space in our area, I was trying to cross the road into Green Park. I had a dog and I had a baby in a pram and I was trying to get across. And I realised that when I nearly got hit at the pedestrian crossing going from City Road down Abercrombie Street, and standing in the middle of that traffic island at that T intersection with a baby that was really upset and a dog that wanted to go elsewhere, I thought there has got to be a safer way to get into this park. So I began doing a bit of research, talked to various locals around the place, and it turns out I was right. It's a very, very dangerous entry into the park at that T intersection of City Road and Abercrombie Street. And over the last 50, I'll just run through it and then I'll take questions if that's okay. Cleveland Street, not Abercrombie. Oh, sorry, yeah, Cleveland. Thank you. Old lady, no memory. It's really sad. City Road and Cleveland Street. So at that time there was a council election on. Clover Moore knocked on the door. She said, I'm running for council. What are you guys interested in? And I said, I reckon we need either a footbridge crossing City Road like the Sydney University students have, or a set of traffic lights, or even we could go crazy and have a tunnel under City Road. I kind of don't care, but what I really want, and what I reckon a whole lot of other people really want, is safe access into Victoria Park halfway along City Road, which puts it at the Myrtle Street T intersection of City Road and Myrtle Street. And she said, well, that sounds great, but how do I know other people want that? Why don't you get a community petition up, get as many people interested as possible, and I'll have a look at it. So over the months, we had a whole lot more corner shops at that stage and a whole lot more pubs at that stage. So all the pubs had the petition on the counter, all the shops had and we managed to get close to 600 signatures. Being an idiot at that time, very briefly, I posted the petition into Clover without photocopying it. But anyway, I thought, well, what could go possibly wrong, right? It is evidence that the community want this. time passed, nothing was said. Elections came, elections went. And at that stage, Chris Harris from the Greens was also a council member. And at some point, he knocked on the door and said, "I'm Chris Harris, what do you want?" And I said, "I want to find out what happened to our proposal to have a safe access to Victoria Park." He pushed it forward on council. It came to the vote. Clover got together with the other Liberal councillors and voted it down. A few months later, I found out about this and rang Clover's office and spoke to Clover's bloke. I can't remember his name. It was a long time ago. And I said, Clover had said if we showed interest, showed community support, it went to the vote. She voted it down. WTF, seriously. And he said, "Well, you don't really want a footbridge there." I said, "Yeah, we probably do, actually." And he said, "And actually, you don't want a pedestrian access there." I said, "No, actually, we do." And he said, "Well, actually, the RTA don't like the idea because it slows the traffic." And I said, "That's the plan. That is actually the plan. The plan is to slow the traffic so that we pedestrians can actually get into the only park in our neighbourhood of any substance." And he said, "Well, it's not going to happen. It didn't happen. You've lost the vote. And by the way, as I said, you probably didn't want it anyway," which, as you can imagine, by this stage I'm an old cranky woman, and being told by a young fella that actually we don't want that didn't impress me at all. Anyway, so that was the end of the story, because I totally gave up, really. But as time has gone on, we continue to see people, myself amongst them, dive across that road and hopefully not get hit by cars. We see Yarbin, we see Fair Day, we see New Year's Eve parties, we see thousands of people routinely use the park in massive numbers without any safe access unless they go from Broadway or up to Abercrombie. Well, City Road and Cleveland. Sorry, I'm really fixated on Abercrombie. It's really sad. But my thing is that, if you're a Sydney University student, you can use a footbridge into the university. You can use a pedestrian set of lights at one end. 10 metres further down the road, you can use another set of lights. I reckon the people of Chippendale are worth at least the same amount of care. I reckon a set of traffic lights at that T intersection will save lives, and I reckon we've waited long enough for it. It would slow traffic. The other thing that worries me about that intersection, pre-COVID-19, I'm sure if any of you have driven up City Road in the afternoon, when there are tons of students everywhere just streaming across the Myrtle Street to go up City Road, if you're trying to turn left into City Road and cars behind you are at speed and you try and brake, if you get rear-ended, you're going to go flying into a whole lot of students. Absolutely they are. That's right. So it's not safe from that perspective either. Anyway, it is really exciting that Sylvie's here. It is really exciting that it looks like we're going to get some energy back in this and we might eventually be able to get, a set of lights. I can't believe it, 2022, and we're fighting for safe access. But anyway, that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Fantastic. Firstly, are there any questions or comments from the audience in the room? Is that a hand at the back? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Can you just come up to the microphone, please? Thank you. If you could just give your name and make the question or the comment, that'd be fantastic.
Liz Bonshep. I'd just like to say I thought that was a great presentation of the history of Chippendale and that T section into the park. I wholeheartedly agree. I think I've been in the area for some time, since the 1990s. I've lived away, I've come back. I still can't believe that intersection is in that way. Nothing is happening.
Just a bit closer to the microphone.
Nothing is happening, and I think it's a really dangerous intersection. You've spoken to that. I think increasingly as we are COVID affected and we're working at home, such as myself, I'm now making that trot over that road every day. I'm at home working. I've got to get some exercise. I now go over to that pool nearly every day of the week. And I'm not the only one dashing over there, trying to get in and trying to get back out again.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for coming tonight and for telling us that. I'm just going to tell Bjorn that somehow I've managed to change the screen and am unable to read the chats. And while he's fixing up that, I just want to hold this sheet up. It's for the... I've got some competition. Hello. It's... I've got... if Sylvie could hold this up. This is a flyer that went to all Chippendale for the New Year's Eve party at Victoria Park. 90% of it was fenced off for thousands of people to attend that. That is one of the many really metropolitan-wide functions held in Victoria Park. I don't know why we're arguing about this. I don't know why people whose job it is to make people safe from cars haven't done this a long time ago. And I'm glad that we can meet and talk and I can take my mask off. What is that? I think every meeting should have at least a small dash of comedy, brought to you free. Now, Sylvie, if there are any other questions, and while I'm looking at this screen, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I think I'm mic'd.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, great. So, hello, I'm Councillor Sylvie Ellsmore. I'm one of your newly elected local councillors. So people might know there's 10 local councillors on the City of Sydney, including the Lord Mayor, and 6 of us are new this time around. And so I commend you for taking the opportunity, Michael for organising the meeting, but also, to be honest, when there's new councillors, it's a great opportunity to say we'd like to talk to you about something that's been bothering us for a long time. And I'm really pleased to be able to be here tonight to chat to you about that, to be upfront about what I've been briefed on and what I know, but also what I don't know when as a single councillor, what I see as the opportunities of where I might be able to assist you or not. I'm the one Green councillor on the council. I'm also a local resident. I live in Darlington, so I'm obviously very aware, live in a couple of blocks from all the places we're going to talk about tonight, walk my dog through the Peace Park, ride my bike through the cycleway along the side of the Peace Park. So that also helps tonight. So I'm mainly here to listen. It's really lovely to be able to do that face-to-face and in person. And even though I'm just one councillor, I really want to commit that I'm not here representing the council because I'm obviously not the Lord Mayor or the Deputy Lord Mayor, but I am very keen to talk to you about not just the specific campaigns that you've got, but some of the issues that are surround that relate to other issues in the area. And I can tell you that some of the other councillors are watching online who aren't able to make it tonight, and also that the Office of Jenny Leong, as your local Greens MP, sends their apologies but is interested in assisting or being available to follow up with some of the actions that come out of tonight. So with all of those disclaimers, thank you for the opportunity to be here and be part of your public meeting.
I love this device. Thank you. Jess Scully, a councillor, is online according to this. Welcome, Jess, and thank you for taking the time to participate in the meeting. It's really appreciated. Thank you on behalf of myself and all of us. Somebody's just said I come down City Road and turn left into Myrtle, and I'm always worried about being back-ended. So I've got nothing else to say about that. I don't want to spin it out because we allocated 30 minutes, unless... Yep.
Yeah, I was just wondering if, Sylvie, you could tell us any of the briefings you've had with council workers about where they think the issue is up to?
Sure. So one of the important things, is that it's an important state road, so it's good for us to know that the people whose minds that primarily need to be changed to the state government around that, so in terms of planning the campaign and how you get, but also obviously traffic decisions are something that are decided between council and the state government, but the ultimate decision maker. So that was one of the things that the staff clarified for me. And they also clarified that at the moment, there was many decades ago, it might have been 2019, that the council did write to the state government and said, what do you think about the idea of adding some more crossing or something around there? And we're told, no, we don't support that, but the staff will write again. So at this stage, I don't know, I'm not been briefed on if the council has a position or not. There's nothing before council to have a say about it. So one of the things we can discuss tonight is if you want council to consider doing something different to backing the residents to write to the state government, what does that look like? What would you be asking for, and what paths could you follow to get there?
Great question, great answer. So I think we'll focus now for the balance of this topic on actions, because it's good that the staff might write. But what about the councillors and the council as a council body? After all, the approval and the conditions for those thousands of people to go to the park, which the council owns in trust for us, the beneficiaries, and for which they issue the conditions, the council's inviting people here. They can't stand back and say, oh gosh, what will you do, state government? They are an active player in creating the risk, and they need to speak through the political part of the council, not through the staff. We need actions, I think, and I suggest they should be for the councillors. Yes, sir, I see your hand. Can you come up to the mic?
Just a quick question. I might have missed something, but have we gone on from the possibility of a road bridge, of a pedestrian bridge over the city, over City Road?
No.
So, this is a good
Because that's
question
what I would favour.
to clarify if what the community wants investigated are a range of options or
Gosh,
one
I thought we could
particular
move on.
option, or what is.
So what I was told about that by the nice young fellow who was assisting Clover more in telling us what we don't want, what he explained to me about that footbridge, he said, well, a footbridge would be really expensive. And I said, no, it wouldn't. If you put advertising on it, it would be cost neutral, in fact. And he said, but it'd take up heaps of space. And I went, like, we can work with this stuff. We do have footbridges around the place. And he said, and it would need wheelchair access. And I said, well, that's a given. That's where they get these crazy things called elevators. We use them all the time.
I've got one down in...
Wattle Street has a really good example of what a footbridge looks like over a really busy street.
Can I suggest, because I'm a timekeeper, the time is running out. We need to focus on what are some actions we wish to agree on, both inside the room here and online, to get this thing happening. I've suggested we all write to the councillors. What about writing to the Minister for Police and to the Minister for Roads? Is that a good idea?
Could we, Sylvie, is that, in terms of being inside council, is it best if we write to all the councillors, or is it best that we knock together a motion? Oh, sorry.
Or is it best that we, as a kind of community, put together a motion to take to council and you or someone carry it forward and say this is from the people of Chippendale, a motion to put in something?
Yeah, so look, my experience, it's always good to have a series of things that you'd like to escalate from where you are. So the starting point is people aren't sure what the state government's position is at the moment on having a crossing there, unless, you know, so I think the first step that would be useful is to ask and find out, what do you think? What is the state government's position? You write to the ministers?
At a guess, sorry, I'm kind of naive. I'm not sure how we actually affect change from here. This is my first one of these meetings. But my guess, given the headlines today about how the Berejiklian government corruptly spent money that was meant for the Inner West, I would say their position is they don't care and they're not going to listen to anything we do. So I'm not sure if anyone's seen the headlines, but we've had 96% of money that was meant for the Inner West misspent in coalition areas. So I reckon they don't give a shit, and I'm not sure what writing letters is going to do, but I don't really understand how local politics affects anything.
This is a great comment. Can I just say, from I'm really decades old at this stuff, the best way to play the game is on the front foot. We know what we want. The land is held both by the state and the local council on trust for us, the beneficiaries. We should say what we want and ask the council to ask for it on our behalf, and we should say to the ministers what we want and try and get something happening through our local member who can put a noun, a verb and a full stop in the one sentence unlike
We're just tech issues.
right. This is Knox Street Bar, and so that's my suggestion. We don't have much time to debate all this, but my feeling is, if you wish to, you can drop some notes to Bjorn, and I think it's possible for the actions to be up there for you to choose. Ask the council to write and ask the state government what do you... Well, we should, I think, just as Benny suggested, tell the state government what we want and cut to the chase. Otherwise, if we keep behaving like this, it'll be 2030 and we'll be all cooked. So, anyway, that's my suggestion. But are there any more suggestions about actions before we move on to Peace Park? Don't talk from there, come up here.
Okay. Well,
Briefly.
on that, can we just have a quick show of hands if people are comfortable about us writing to the police minister, the traffic minister and all the councillors to say we want safe access to Victoria Park from Myrtle across City Road. And we will leave it up to the experts whether or not that's a footbridge, a set of traffic lights, a tunnel. I don't...
Unanimous.
Yeah?
Personally, or you mean just as collective?
Just as whatever we call ourselves, I don't know, concerned Chippendale citizens.
No, the...
CCC? Oh, yeah.
So let's not wordsmith it together. That's a done. I don't know what's happening offline. But you have to say whatever you've got to say over there. There.
I just want to suggest that maybe we should circulate a draft and agree on a draft, and
Yeah.
then we all send the same letter.
Okay, cool. That's a fantastic idea. So what Clive has volunteered to draft something. If you write your name and email on a sheet of paper that somehow will be sourced from the room, maybe just... anyway, we can deal with that. Yeah, there's a big sheet of paper. It's the other side of one of the plans of the park.
Can I also
And
ask?
yeah.
So it's one thing. I think it's great community campaign. This is the right way to go about it. You know, people have raised tonight a lot of things about feeling unsafe with the existing crossing. So even if successful with the campaign, it's going to be a long time to bring something online. It takes a long time for any big road changes to happen. So I'd be keen to know if there are ideas too about progressing some of the other safety issues you mentioned in the meantime. So if, for example, finding out are people really getting knocked at the existing crossings that there are, and is that something that the council should be trying to move on more quickly and might be able to move with smaller actions while the bigger campaign is going on?
So we've got a man on the mic.
Hi,
What
yes,
is your
my
name,
name's
sir?
Robert,
Robert.
and I live near that intersection of Cleveland Street and City Road. And I actually wrote to you last week, Sylvie. I'm not sure if you've received it, and also to Jenny Leong, because I understand that it was about a separate matter, but it's related to the safety of that pedestrian crossing onto the little traffic island to cross Cleveland Street. But in relation to a JC Decal sign that's been out the front of our place for 20 years and was recently removed. So since I've been living here since the year 2000, when in fact we were part of South Sydney Council, and then at some point it was changed over to City of Sydney Council, whereupon the bus stops became the JC Decal ubiquitous bus stops you see all over the world that, I find a bit bland. But when the bus stop, which used to be directly across from us, was converted, the JC Decal advertising panel stopped commuters from seeing the oncoming buses, and so complaints, I think, is what resulted in they removed the advertising panel, so there was a clear panel, and plonked it out across the road in front of our place, which is where it's been until it was recently removed, because about a year ago there was a DA stuck on it saying we're upgrading to a digital sign, and I made a submission saying, can you please move it? And in fact, some years before that, when the bus stop moved further down the road towards sort of, closer to Myrtle Street but opposite, I did ask then that they move the sign with that and just put it on the northern end of the bus stop so people don't miss the bus. But that didn't. I never heard back. Anyway, I don't know what the situation is now. I don't know if another sign is planned to go out the front because the communication has been. There hasn't been any communication.
I have a solution. I need to keep moving on. Let's put a really huge sign on top of a big pedestrian overpass from Myrtle Street to Victoria Pass, so that the JC Dassault, whatever they're called, can quadruple their income. And the only thing people will see will be the migrating pelicans and things like that. And you, sir, I'm going to make sure that whatever funds we raise are going to go towards intensive counselling.
But no, Robert, I will follow up.
Yes.
I hadn't worked out who to write to yet.
Right.
It's one of my things as a new councillor, but it was definitely, I've discussed it with to find that out.
Yeah.
But it
my
sounds
point
like
too,
also,
part of my objection is that sign is another distraction to motorists who, by and large, like speed up to that intersection, which is at the moment has kind of lost all the white paint anyway. There's only one little sign that says it's a crossing, and they don't stop until they're over or past the actual pedestrian crossing while they realise that they can't continue because there's traffic turning into Cleveland Street that's come from the south. So, anyway, that's kind of my 2 cents worth.
No, it's more than 2 cents. Thank you.
I know that the council doesn't like those kind of broken up pedestrian crossings like onto traffic islands, or that's the impression that I got from other consultation years ago. But unfortunately, it's quite a major, big semi-trailers come from Parramatta Road and they do that sort of dog leg of that bit of city road, and it just would be good if there was.
Let's put a sign up there, city aggression, because they're either going to work or fleeing it and going home.
Yeah.
In a great hurry. It's a very aggressive driver that is there early in the morning and the afternoon. Thank you.
And I have seen lots of near misses. So I would be happy if the traffic was slowed and there was another set of lights.
So it sounds like I'm keen to follow up and report back through whatever method this meeting decides is the best way to do it. Basically find out if people know that there's a lot of dangerous things happening there already. It's something else that can be leveraged. But we can also talk about what are the options for now that might be not a big construction that would take a year no matter what. You want something fixed in the meantime.
Right. So.
Can I just say a little?
Yeah. So can you tell us who you are, sir?
Anthony, we're new residents of Chippendale. There's actually already a crossing that what we want to do on another major road on the other side of the park at Prince Alfred Park on Chalmers Street. Now, I'm not too sure how long they took to get that traffic crossing in, because there was no community consultation to put it in, or no sign saying there's issues, and then overnight there's a new crossing there and it's not as busy, and unlike City Road, which has cars going both ways, Chalmers Street is only one way, and there's pulses of cars, so you have a minute easy to cross the road at anywhere on Chalmers Street, whereas City Road is not like that at all.
40k.
And it's also 40k's at the bottom of Chalmers Street near Central Station.
That's a really great comment. Can you include that fact in the draft, Clive?
So if it's been done there with less traffic and no lives lost, I assume, or no near misses, then the Abercrombie, that regular crossing is very well used.
I need to alert everybody. Yes, ma'am. Please come up. Just come up while you're coming. I'll talk. The argument against this is that the more traffic there is, the less interference with the fast and speeding and the volume of it. That's how the traffic people see through it. So we need to give that example, but do our best to quantify the risk in both places. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's Liz again. I don't know. I'm just thought of another possible precedent, which is when you come out of the Albert Park entrance, the footpath entrance onto Cleveland. Are you not confronted with a pedestrian crossing that you can then go over the very, very busy street of Cleveland Street? So there is an exit. There is an exit, a pedestrian exit, and then there is a crossing. what we've got in Victoria Road is actually a road exit as well, because there's now a car park where there used to be the bowls centre, which they've knocked down. There's the road exit and there's the foot exit, but there is no, therefore, what you would predict, perhaps, a crossing.
Fantastic, fantastic, thank you. All right, unless there's something desperately needing to be articulated. Yes, sir.
It's frustrating because the argument about traffic is bullshit. It's just a mindset, right? It's in the middle of the city, so we don't want fucking traffic screaming through the place. Well, for one thing, they'll be breaking the speed now, the speed limit if they speed now, but they do. So what I was going to say was, if you put lights there, you can synchronise the lights. I mean, they do that, don't they? So they all change in sequence. So it's not going to interfere with the traffic that much anyway, in fact.
Yeah, I agree with you. Or we can make the lights on demand so that if there's no demand from them, they're not being turned on. Great point, thank you. Okay, I'm trying to see somebody in the room who was going to come and talk about the next subject, but I can't see him. So I might introduce the next subject. Are there any more? I can't see any comments there.
System is new to me.
So
There's some support online, some hellos. Councillor Scully, Linda saying hello. Yep.
okay, so you did very well, Sylvie. So let's go.
I feel like this is a performance review. You've been elected. Here is your first performance review. All right. Go on, Michael.
So the second topic is, for the second half hour, the topic is Peace Park. What happened is, I think it was before I was on the council in the 1980s, the brewery was operating and 3 semi-trailer loads of each laden with 60,000 empty beer bottles would tootle down Myrtle Street, stopping at each intersection, providing free alarm services from 4 a.m. onwards. And I managed to persuade the council to block it off, and then I managed to persuade a developer who'd bought land adjoining the park to and wanted to get a block of units there. It was the first one of its kind in Chippendale to both pay money for the park, work with us to design it and build it. Ever since then, it's become the heart of Chippendale. It's a really highly used park, and every 10 or 15 years it gets changed. I just want to say 3 things. It's our land. We are the beneficiaries of a trust. The council holds the land in trust for us. And their first obligation is to us and to what we wish to do with it, so long as it's prudent, justifiable and so on. So we have a complete and legitimate expectation that will be heard to, respected and acted on. The second thing is, the draft plan that was exhibited went to council. They approved it for exhibition. My understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected, is that's all they did. If they approved the whole thing, notwithstanding whatever people said about what was put in exhibition, that's a betrayal of the trust. They're asking us to waste time. So, in preparing for tonight, I went back to a document I did with Old South Sydney Council around about, 95. It was funded by the brewery. There are 4 council officers I worked with in workshops, named and acknowledged in it, and other people. And we worked on incentives to retain urban heritage in Chippendale. It was an example of a partnership arrangement between the community and the council, where we worked together for some solutions. There was no us and them. The reason I put this on the agenda tonight is we're not being listened to. I'll give you an example. I went to a workshop, invitation only, 4 of us, me and 3 other people during the virus. we reached agreement, and where things required some further inquiry, we promised we'd get back to. Ever since then, I've had to put in freedom of information requests to get copies of information and drawings. And then when I ask for more detailed drawings, they say that could interfere with the potential tendering process. In other words, we're being given no information about the implementation of the workshop and the time we spent contributing our ideas. I've been really impressed by some council officers who've been very generous with their time and their ears on site. But all the parks are ultimately designed and built by the council, and all the parks are failing to be sustainable. They waste the water that goes into Sydney Harbour. They waste the water that falls on them and goes to Botany Bay. I just want to ask Sylvie, if she could, to multitask and hold this near my face. This is how the designs work. So this hand is a path. This sign is the verge, the grass of the garden bed on the same level. So what happens when it rains and the wind blows? Everything goes onto the path. If you could just bear with me, Sylvie. Mm-hmm. And then 5 mornings a week, somebody brings a high combustion air blower, walks along the path and blows it back onto the path. So it's our money being wasted, it's petrol driven or fuel driven, and it's a complete waste caused by the consultants designing paths that are taking no respect for the water. The other thing I want to say, isn't it wonderful how the plants and the trees are so green and lush? Not due to the design of the footpaths and the intersections between them and the grass and the verges. Entirely due to this real pain in the arse rain that won't stop. And so, what I've suggested to council is they recess the grass and the other things so that there'll be intermittent ponding there and absorption. Not enough to drown a child or a rat, but enough to hold the water, as is done in many parks, but not in this multi-billion-dollar council. I want to just say this. When I was working with one of the councillors about 10 years ago, the council bought a several $100 million office block in Martin Place so they could earn income from it. And they waste their money on park design, and they put up excuses that they can't answer this or that question because they have to see what the consultants say, and they hide behind them. This is not rocket science, designing a park. And in any event, what the consultants have done so far over the last 30 years is a failure. This is the time to do 2 things in parks. Make them safe and keep the water and the energy there that falls for free from the sky. The reason they don't want to use the solar thing is they say, oh, we buy solar power. Well, how does that work? You buy solar power from a solar farm hundreds of kilometres away. It loses a lot in transmission, and you ignore the stuff that falls on all the parks. You don't use solar. There was a solar panel that South Sydney Council put in about 30 years. It lasted for 20 years and the battery started to go on the blink. What did the council do? They cut it down and put in an electric powered light that's powered by solar from somewhere else. We need to harvest all the sun falling on all our parks. Let me give you an idea of the water that falls there. It's about 8 million litres of water a year, most of which acts as a transport vehicle to take stuff into Blackwattle Bay and Sydney Harbour. Blackwattle Bay is the most polluted bay in Sydney Harbour. So the things I want to see in the park are this. The first person was going to talk about bike safety. Kids run, dogs run across that central park without looking. It's a joy to see. At the same time, there's an increasing number of money-driven, careless, I would say unable to read signs, e-bike drivers delivering food and so on, who tootle along that path and are not excluded by the bollards. In that meeting I mentioned, I was promised, 4 of us were promised, there would be some obstruction to stop e-bikes coming through there at speed. The drawing that's here, and which I was sent after it, has no such interference. One of the reasons I'm a bit grumpy is they're wasting my time, our time and your time. We shouldn't be here tonight. So that's the first thing. The bike path that exists should be made useful. I just want to do this multitasking again. There's a sign on the far side of the western side of the park saying cyclists stop. Put there and designed by consultants. I will pay $1 to anybody who's a cyclist who has seen that sign. It doesn't face the bike path. It faces into the park and is obscured by trees. In any event, cyclists are looking into the distance. The sign is over there. I mean, give me a break. This is Monty Python. And we're paying for this banality. Enough of me, more of you in the room and outside. We need to make clear to the councillors that we want this to come back to council and we want sustainable water, sustainable energy use and a safe middle path through the park. Is anybody else wanting to shut me up by coming up to the microphone and saying something? There is our youngest consultant is in the room. She's already drawn her plans. Would you like to come to the microphone with your dad or do you just want to watch? She's almost 4. We'll leave her to consult with her minders. Anybody else want to say anything about the park? Thank you. If you can just remind us of your names.
Robert.
It's Robert. I'm not sure. Some mention has been made of the New Year's Eve party in Victoria Park, which we did get the DA for that, and I ran out of time to make a submission, but I was going to object to it because it's not a community. Well, I'm not sure what the party was for, but as far as I could tell, it was a ticketed party, so it's a commercial party. I don't know if it had any connection to any particular community, but as far as I was aware, you had to pay, and I don't know what the ticket price was. There was no information about that, but I object to Victoria Park being used for private parties, and I don't think the council should be hiring it out as a venue. I don't mind Yarbin occurring or, Fair Day or any community event where, you may be asked to make a donation as you enter, but when the whole park is closed to the residents for a week and, it's somewhere that I use every day to go to Glebe or to go further west, and not to be able to do that, or returning from Broadway. I cycle, so I prefer to avoid the intersection of City Road and Broadway. I knew to expect it this year, but even then when I tried to avoid the park by going through Sydney Uni, there was blockages there as well. So it's like, I can't understand how that could even get to at the point of a DA. We shouldn't be asked to make a submission on whether the public land, the kind of park land that is meant to be there for the residents and visitors, can be just hired out to some private concern. I find that really crazy that we're even asked to make a submission on that. It should be ruled out of order, from the get-go.
Okay, that's a fantastic point. Do you have anything to say about Peace Park?
Well, the only thing is, as a cyclist, I do...
Have you seen the sign?
I haven't seen the sign. I do slow down, when look out for pedestrians. And in fact, that's the reason why I use... Because if I'm coming down from, City Road into Peace Park, rather than going... up the cycle bit and around to the right, I tend to go to the left because I can see better rather than someone coming out of that door from the Pine Street community centre. I just feel like that's a bit more dangerous as a cycle path compared to the...
Used, is it?
Yeah, that's the bicycle path side, but I tend to... I come back that way, but it's... I guess you have to be mindful that you have to...
Yeah.
Give way to pedestrians.
There are 2 stop signs there, and one of the options we put to the council was that originally in the original parks for the plan, there was going to be a raised threshold, so the pedestrian was brought up to the level of the car, and the council deleted that, and there's some sort of mosaic over there, but it doesn't work, and cyclists don't like to stop, I understand that, but the stop signs are never observed either by e-bikes, ordinary bikes or cars. It's an intersection that needs everybody to slow down because of all the things that are happening. Thank you for that user feedback, Robert.
And Robert, I don't know how that happened with the DA, but I'll find out when I respond to your other thing about that. You can,
Good.
I was wondering if anyone objected because I never got
Yeah, I don't. Yep. It's not something.
Okay, yes,
happy
come
to
to the
follow up.
microphone, please.
I'm Don. Just on that event in the park. That was a private event, was it?
Yeah, it was
It says Councillor Scully.
Yeah, right. So one of the things that astonished me about that was that they let them tear up the ground. They tore great holes in the park all over. They paid what?
They would have paid some money to fix up the grass.
It wasn't fixed up last time I saw.
Yeah, and they had to wait a week because they knew that there was the.
But there are ways. I mean, putting aside the question of whether they should be doing it or not, there are ways to run things in parks that don't destroy the ground. I mean, I've seen in London in Regent's Park, they run huge events in there and they put panels down and trucks, if they have to go in, they drive on those panels.
Sorry, my notes are getting
In
a bit
Victoria
crazy.
Park, they just
Yeah.
tore up the ground
Yeah.
everywhere.
I'm kind of attached to Big Peace Park at the moment, if that's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, actually, one comment on
I
Peace
am
Park.
happy to follow this up, and I'm going to make sure that I give people I don't have a card to give out yet, but these are all really good questions. As a new councillor, I don't have the answers with me, but
Yeah.
I'm really happy to follow up because I agree with you. It's my local park too, and
So
it shouldn't be that way.
on Peace Park, I don't know if they. How many times do they have to redesign the park? I agree with the ideas you're putting forward about, harvesting the water and making it ecologically sound. But I mean, once it's done, if it's done properly, it doesn't have to be rebuilt. There seems to be this anally retentive mentality in Sydney that everything has to be constantly rebuilt and redesigned, and
Yeah,
it's just crazy. A couple more points.
sure.
The paving is dangerous, and partly because of constant rain. Both of us have had incidents where we've slipped on the paving.
The
coming
big
out.
paving,
The brick paving coming.
covered.
Yes,
Yeah.
covered in moss. It's very dangerous.
yeah.
Um,
I've fallen over it too, and now in the rain, I walk differently.
Yeah,
I
we
don't-
do too. We avoid those parts.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Are
Any more?
Yeah, well,
Good. No, great.
a question. Are we going to move on in the agenda to other issues in the area?
No, just these two. But what
But
are the
I'm happy
issues?
to have a chat with people afterwards
Well,
after the filming's
yeah,
finished.
we're in a
for the
bar, we can
official
talk until-
Michael meeting that he's coordinated, but I'm happy to
we've
hang
got.
out
We live in
afterwards, yeah.
Buckland Street. You talked about trucks barreling
I
down there
promise
at
I'm
4
going to
o'clock
stay
in-
as
sorry.
long as you want, and I will chat to you about it on the other issues.
Yeah,
for
is
sure.
that
Unless
okay?
you wanted them to be
Yes, yes.
filmed and part of
Yeah.
this meeting, I
I-
promise I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, so stick around, there's some Terps down there. I should say that Councillor Jess Scully has said that she's gone through the history of the plans, and I'm mistaken. There was a plan taken back to council after the community consultation, and then some detailed design took place in March 2021. That's the problem. The detailed design doesn't listen to us, and when the staff want to say no, they say, "Oh, we'll see if the consultants want to do that." Give me a break. These are not rocket science issues. These are decisions about land held on public trust. Just because the staff like something doesn't mean we have to like it. It's our land, our money, and we know these things better than they do. For example, I pointed out that sign about, 3 or 4 years ago to ask the cyclists to stop near the childcare centre. It's still there. So last week I wrote to the council, look, we'll change it. I don't know where Anthony is, but we're going to dig a hole and turn the thing so it faced the cyclists. We couldn't put another bollard in in the existing place, but we could trial stuff while we're watching grass grow in the planning and design process. And as soon as they go to tender, we're denied access to the plans because that, quote, will interfere with the tendering process. So we'll never see the final plans, and plans always change during design, until we see blokes in the park. Okay, how are we doing on time here?
So I think what it might be useful at this point is to pass on the information I was given about, obviously, again, this was last council term, but the staff briefed me about whether they understand things are up to. And I'm going to avoid getting too much into the minutiae of what I was briefed, because I feel like, to be honest, has more information from talking to the council staff, but I'm happy to take questions back if you like, but actually I don't understand that thing. Please tell me what the hell went on there with the current plans. But as I understand it, the last council in February 2021 approved plans as they now are. That's what you see as a large printout that Michael has provided over there. And the next step, which is imminent, is for council to get a contractor. They usually do them in parts of 3 to say, please come and further now design further based on this scoping that we've given you. And there's room for refinement within the plan. But if you wanted something that was completely different, you wanted to switch around where things were, radically change the furniture in the park, then you'd need a new decision of council. So to get the support of the majority of council, or 5 of the council plus the mayor's casting vote, in order to say, actually, don't put it out to someone now, we want something changed first. So I just want to be really upfront about where things are up to in terms of the timeline and the path that things are currently on.
So my view is there has been a lot of talk. Much of it has been wasted. In that 4-person consultation, there was a clear understanding that they would do something to stop the e-bikes speeding through, and a range of other things. When I got the plans through FOI, none of those things that have been agreed to were in there. So yes, the plans have been refined, but the trustee beneficiary handshake has not been honoured. Can you approach the microphone and say something, or are you going to defer to? All right. Right. So we've got.
Michael, I think there's a. Yeah.
Is there a question?
Oh,
thank you.
Question,
Can you
yeah.
come up?
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, it's just Liz again. I'm just actually asking for clarification, really. So the genesis of changing the park with this plan, that originates from where?
The council have this process. They like to do it every 15 years or something. My view, it doesn't need much changing to be much more. But, you know, if you've got an office building in the city that's giving you, I don't know, $30 million in rent, you can throw a few loose coins around. It's just unnecessary.
I'm going to pass on what I was advised, which is slightly different than that. So I know council does like to renew its parks every 10 or 15 years, but every year it goes through a process and says which ones need to be renewed first, and this one got bumped up the list, I understand, partly because there were some issues with non-compliance with bits and pieces in the kids' park, and so part of what the new design will do was, well, if you've got to change it and make things compliant, is move it to the ideal spot, but also make sure that what you're putting in is actually going to meet the new compliance requirements. And that is one of the things that change, obviously. People realise kids' parks need to be safer than they were before. I don't have any more detail about what those specific things were, but that's what I was briefed on.
Yeah, okay, so I can't say I'm incredibly familiar with that plan, but just briefly looking at it, I would say, yeah, things that make the park sustainable, that can, those are really good. The drainage issues that you're talking about, that sounds really fine. But why are we redesigning the plan? And why is the children's play things on fake grass?
And why do we wander in the dark asking these questions when they should be on the website? It's our land. We need a more transparent process about what triggers works on our behalf with our money, whether it's in the park or the road or whatever. Okay. Action on this one, and I think we've got 5 minutes. What do you guys and girls want to do about this Peace Park thing? Benny? Yeah?
Sorry,
Hi, yes, I'm Benny. This is my first time attending any meeting of this sort, and I don't know about anybody else, but I'm a little bit dismayed. I don't really understand how it is that change actually happens. I mean, from everything we've heard tonight, what seems kind of transparent to me is that we don't really have any representation, and anything that does actually happen doesn't really get consulted with the residents. Even if we don't like it, it still happens anyway because there is a slightly corrupt issue happening there where the money that's being spent isn't like being paid to consultants who know best. It's just being paid to people who know people, and then they're getting people they know to get the work, and that's why the work always happens every few years because I don't know, as a freelancer, when I do a bad job, I don't get repeat work, but it seems like the same people get the same work having done a bad job the first time and then keep doing it wrong, and I don't really see the point of this meeting if there isn't actually a process in place already for us to communicate and to actually, as the people who all of these decisions affect, to actually have a say in any of it. So it's probably the last time I'm going to bother with this, and I think I'll just keep writing songs about Sydney Council and shaming them on the internet.
Yeah, once you took the mask off, I recognised who you were.
Yeah.
I've been to your shows.
Songs are really
should
important.
say
But can I just say
that-
three things? This is what we can do. We can take all of this forward with Clive writing a motion, sending it out to all of us who've just put our emails down. People feed back into that. We get it right. We send it in to Sylvie, for instance, and then she takes it forward to council. Meanwhile, we also keep a template of that and we send it to both the Minister for Transport and the Minister for Police, saying this needs immediate action. But so those are the two layers. But there is a much more effective way. Was it you, Bernie, who brought up the fact that inner west of Sydney has been basically defrauded 25 million or whatever it is? 250. Oh, okay, sorry, I forgot the O's. But this is a political thing. It's a political story. And this is where I think we take the moment. We know there's a state election coming up. We know there's a federal election coming up. We know that none of that actually applies to this in a sense, but we make as much song and dance about this as possible. For any of us who have connections to the media, connections to various talkback, we talk about it, we get concerned about it, and then if we're concerned enough and loudly enough, it becomes their concern. If you do what I did 25 years ago and just go, meh, oh well, nothing will happen, but it's the council approach, it's a state government approach, but it's also the atmospherics around something like this that we can think of creatively of how do we amplify that, the atmospherics of this, so that kids are being put at risk trying to access the only park in the neighbourhood, so that a beautiful old park that has heritage value is actually really unsafe because it's being torn up by, you know, it's slippery, it's not cared for and things like that. Like, we just think creatively about it, as well as going through the official channels of how this change comes about.
So that's a great note to end on. I just want to acknowledge another comment. Sorry, Jess, I can't get more airplay for everybody on here, but Jess Scully has just said at 7:20 p.m. I agree. I would like to see the designs worked on with the community over the last 2 years to be implemented, not design again needlessly. So thank you for being with us.
So, Michael, I know you're co-chairing. I do think one of the things that's come out of tonight, though, is that there's a lack of information about where things landed. Yeah. And it was clear from talking to the staff, like I wasn't on council when this happened, but I do know that there's been a couple of rounds of consultation, which may or may not, and that there's a lack of clarity about what things the community wanted actually landed in the plans that council is now planning to take forward. And I think a really important thing about saying, well, actually we want this different, is to make sure that everyone's on the same page with what the track we're on now. And the other thing I wanted to say is I did get to have a chat with a couple of the councillors. Obviously, I'm one councillor, you need to get the majority of councillors to get a change. Once you work out the specific things that you haven't won already that you want to make sure are changed, like more sustainability initiatives as part of the park. Because there's been a couple of rounds of consultation, whether you're asking for there to be a kind of longer time period while there is more consultation, or whether there's some advice you can give the councillors about what went wrong last time that's really clear, because they'll be getting reports from staff that say, actually, we've done lots of consultation, we got 65 submissions and we landed where we thought the community wanted. So I just want to be really upfront about some of the challenges when I've talked to other people about where they think things are at, and that they, in the way that council normally does the parks, by all accounts, that there has been the normal process followed here. So it's good to just arm you guys. I'm happy to keep talking about that. It was before my time. I wasn't involved in it, but I also want to be upfront about what you might need to do to get the change that you want. And it should start with making sure everyone's got the information about where you are right now. And tonight, it strikes me, a lot of stuff got, there's a lot of uncertainty about that.
Fantastic. So we won't go into actions here because we're running out of time, but there's one hand here. Can you go first, please?
I just think when there was a bench around a gas bed, no one can go in the gas bed. I think those people who were looking after the gas, I think they weren't looking after the gas properly. I don't want to make it all start. We want to keep it all happy. Because we don't want to mess up the world.
So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
The grass, it makes the earth sad.
Yeah.
Yes,
We do
thank
have to keep the grass happy.
And
You
you've
don't
got
look
to,
after it right.
Yeah.
Only remember those builders who are looking after the gas.
Yes.
I think they weren't looking after
It's good that you can see it at your age because people many years older than you can't. So, thank you very much. Applause for that wonderful contribution. Did you want to say something? Is that Katie up there?
Yeah, hi.
Just, no, up here, please.
Oh, I think everyone can hear me fine.
No.
I was recording, okay, sorry.
If you're comfortable being recording, in which case, if you're not, you should. Yeah.
Just quickly, because we're over time.
I just wanted to know, with the submissions, for example, that have been put in,
Yeah.
can we see those?
They're summed
I
up.
don't know the answer to that question.
You can put an FOI in to get them. The summary is often inaccurate. And I'll give you an example. I did a drawing itemising the things that were agreed to in the workshop, which weren't in the plan. Also, I've been to many, it used to be before the council was amalgamate, I've been to many design workshops where the designer, stroke a consultant, was in the room with the staff, and guess what? Citizens were there too. And they actually were able to change the design by having, guess what? A conversation together. Imagine that.
So what might be good is to actually, as all of us as people who are interested in the future of Peace Park and what has already been submitted by our fellow citizens, not saying it has to be named, but it'd be good to know exactly what people have requested so far and how much of it.
That's a great thing. So Sylvie can get the comments and then see summary and then see if we can get the original.
I think there are some privacy things, but I think it's public information, as Michael said. Yeah, as long as it just takes a while to extract.
Okay, so thank you. I've never been to a public meeting where I've shared an address from a young, I think it'll be Prime Ministeress one day. Thank you, Alexia. And everybody else who's contributed. I'm sorry to be grumpy tonight. I used to laugh and sing and dance a lot more than I do, but these things, as Benny said, can be a bit dispiriting. And thank you to the people online for joining us. It will be online until Thursday. So we'll consult carefully over the liquid refreshments down there, and we will grow our voice. We will be heard, and we will get what we are entitled to for the land held on trust for us, paid for by our rates and by buildings bought with our rates to do this and that. Thank you for coming, and thank you for...
And Clive will send out a draft of the motion to everyone who's emailed and Scott.
Yeah. Isn't that right, Clive?
The only thing I'm not comfortable about is having everybody contributing to drafts. That's the only thing I'm not comfortable about. What was mentioned before is having everybody contribute to a draft. I mean, that's a recipe for a mess.
Okay, so this is our opportunity to either madden Clive or leave him pretty much alone, but send him your comments. Thank you, Clive, and everybody. We look forward to Deathless Prose from all of us, and it's, in a way, it's been fun. Perverse, but fun. So thank you. Thank you, Bjorn. I just want to thank Bjorn and this wonderful facility where we can actually meet in compliance with COVID requirements for free at the Knox Street Bar and have really terrific gear that works and that enables us to communicate both in and outside the room. Thank you, Knox Street Bar. Thank you, Sylvie. And thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'll